Park Department, and some capital improvement projects are paid for property taxes out of edit. Those would not be in Form 2, and property taxes for listed as property taxes for the Prairie Creek Reservoir, and the majority of the budget is self-funded through their revenue. And thank you for that clarification. So, having said that, we will move on to the order of business, and we will invite Mayor Ridenour up to discuss his budget. That will begin on page 3. Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening.
If I might, I would kind of like to touch base on maybe the Board of Works first. And I will tell you why last week we found a couple of mistakes.
Okay, well then
If that works for the
we can
committee.
definitely entertain that. Or will you be going over the entire Board of Works budget or just
Possibly. I want to share there's 2 mistakes. We made 2 errors on our part.
Okay.
One of them's pretty large. It's page 5.
Let us catch up with you. So on page 5, we will start that. Oh, page 5 towards the bottom of the page. Starts with health insurance. All right. What can we do for you, sir?
That is the error spot. So one of the things that I had been talking with the controllers about is moving the health insurance, which the departments have no control over. And it's in each individual department. I had told them to move everything to the Board of Works, and we'd have one line for health insurance. We did that. We played with that a number of times. And in the end, I said, we'll just keep it in the departments. We will tell people that starting in 26, we want to move it away so that it's not a budget item. We forgot to roll some of that out.
Okay.
Of that $1,226,504 that's in there, that should be $13,098.
Okay, yeah, that was a difference.
So that is $1.2 million. So it's my fault. I had been making them play with those numbers to see if we wanted to do it this time, or if we wanted to try and do it next time. I don't really like it in the individual budgets, individual department budgets.
We actually discussed that when we were on council together in 2018.
Yes, we did.
And so
Yes, we did.
That is something that there is precedent for that, just to keep it out of the departments.
And so, but we didn't catch it before we had rolled some out, but didn't catch that all of it had been rolled out. So I have a little sheet for you, but that's $1.2 million.
Yeah.
That is an expense that that we recommend you cut. I recommend you reduce that to the number.
Well, I have a follow-up question for you.
Okay.
The $13,098 for health insurance and the Board of Works. Who is that covering? What is
It's
that?
not an individual. Matt, remind me. That is the Humana. That's Humana.
13,098.
13,098. I have a handout I'm going to give to you after I tell you the second error that we made. But that is the Humana is what is kept in there. So that 11,500 times the 13.9% increase that we're doing on insurance is what makes it 13,098. It was 11,500 last year.
And so Humana, and I'm just asking for my own clarification, Humana charges us a certain amount, or is that?
What does that mean? Yeah.
It's retirement insurance.
It's for retirees.
For retirees.
Thank you.
So that's number one. Number two, we discovered that we had not submitted the correct amount on one of the income statements. This is not on page 5. This is on Form 2. Sorry, you're going to flip around, but I just thought it'd be best to get this out up front
Okay.
now, up first thing. When you look at revenue R902 on the Form 2,
Page 1 of Form 2.
Thank you.
Near the bottom there. Earnings on investments and deposits.
we only had 30,000 in there. And last year we earned 582,000. We expect, and so that we're wanting to put in 550,000. We did talk with the DLGF last week, and she indicated that that's 100% acceptable. She would do that
Yeah.
for us at the end. Those two things together, so that's a $520,000 savings.
Correct.
So I think this will make your guys' life a lot easier. So I'm going to pass this out, but it makes, when you add those two together, now one's a reduction that we want to see happen on the expense side of 1,213,406. The other is an increase that you're going to see on the income side of 520,000. That net is 1,733,406.
Say that again, please. 1 million.
1,733,406. But I have a sheet for each of you.
Okay.
May I just drop
Yes,
them?
please.
Right in here. Thank you. Sorry.
That's your money.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So there's two? Yes, it is two.
Was that earnings and investment?
There we go.
Here we go. That's much better. And it's big enough we can see it.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you, sir. Good.
That's very good.
So I'll take responsibility for both of those. I know the one was because I kept making them play with it and
It's okay.
adjust it and then take it back and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so anyway, that's what I wanted to talk to about the Board of Works. It's those two mistakes that actually both work greatly to our advantage as a city,
Yes.
greatly to our advantage. So it should make your lives a little easier. Now, if you want to go back to my budget, you can, or you can stick on Board of Works.
Yes,
Or
let's go back to yours. Hold
Okay.
on. Now that we've gotten good news, we will go back to the mayor's budget on page 3. You're halfway down. Make sure I've got the right one. Excuse me, just one second. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Okay, Mayor, your salaries were increased. Can you tell me what percentage that was?
I believe it should be, I think for mine, it was the 5% for elected officials plus the 1% is what I think it should be. And then I think it's 1% for the others.
Okay, so 5% plus 1%. And is that for the others then? Deputy Mayor, Executive Secretary, are those 1% or did you increase those at a higher rate?
I believe those are, I would have to figure that up. I don't know. I went with the controller on that, so the controller put in the salaries.
1%.
10%?
One.
One?
Okay.
It is one.
And
Okay.
then
How about-
I think that might be, hold on one second, let me catch up myself. I just really had a question about the salaries. Are there any other questions from the committee?
It looks like there's no vehicles in this year. Are you,
Yeah, I'm going to move that to edit next year.
okay, okay.
And that way I could keep mine. This is the first time I've had any increase in mine overall. So I was hoping to, I still have an increase, but thank you to the health insurance. But I wanted to make mine as reduce the pain as much as possible. So I'm just going to pay that out of edit,
Please do.
which is $8,340.
For this year, you've spent 108% of gas and oil. Is that from 2024? And I just was curious, Did you increase that for next year? Is that something that we need to address?
No, I'll take my chances with it.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I honestly don't believe gas and oil is going to drop that much, but we will figure it out.
All right. Anyone else?
I do. I have one overarching question, and it's just about, it doesn't even rise to the level of concern. It's more about an interest, knowing that insurance costs are skyrocketing.
Mhm.
How do our department heads, how do we anticipate in this budget what we're going to need next year?
Well, that's what we relied on, and we didn't find out until July that there was going to be a substantial increase in the insurance, and it's all based on claims. There are some large claims. Some are employees, some are spouses of employees, and some are children of employees. And I know I asked a specific question: are these short-term items, or do we need to plan for this long-term? They said long-term, and we said, what do we need to do on the premiums to make sure that our employees and or their spouses and or their children are getting the coverage they need? They recommended this amount. And obviously before that, we were planning on doing some different parts to the budget, but we want to make sure that our employees have the coverage they need.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
I've just got a follow up to that. Then have you talked to them? I mean, do they have, I know a lot of insurance companies will have things like, where it could be like employee wide sort of fitness kind of things like that to try to get discounts. I mean, I'm sure HR, the benefits people have talked to them about it, but I don't know if there's anything. I mean,
We have
into.
a lot of those things are already in play,
Mhm.
and it's I unfortunately I just think it's the world that we're in right now. But we've just had a substantial increase in prescriptions, and we have a few people, 6 to 8, that have some major challenges,
Mhm.
and that's what we're faced with right now.
May I?
Absolutely.
Have we disaggregated that data to have a better understanding what the issues are with prescriptions, or is that a situation where you can't talk about in public?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't share. I don't even know the names,
Okay.
and so our insurance.
No, I'm not talking about.
No.
names
Well,
of people, names
what
of
my
drugs.
what I was going to say is
Okay.
I don't even know the names, so I wouldn't share any names. And I will say that there are some pretty fun commercials on television, and I think they're doing some good. For example, I'm in pretty good health, but I am listed as pre-diabetic. I'm not diabetic, but I'm pre-diabetic. If you are pre-diabetic, then you're able to get some of the prescriptions
I see.
that we cover, and it has caused it to go much more expensive for us. So we drilled with the insurance company, without cutting what people can get. Is there some method? But if it's prescribed, they can get it, and we cover it. So there's some items
Perhaps
that
some
are
of those are not generic yet.
correct. That's correct. So it's been a challenge. It was a real surprise because we did not have any of these types of increases the last couple of years. So it really took us by surprise. And but we've addressed it, and we're working to maintain it. We mentioned it the minute we heard about it. We mentioned it in the negotiations so that they were prepared that this was happening, and we have to handle it. This is not something that we can just pass on and say, well, we're not going to buy that particular vehicle or something. This is our employees or their spouses or their children's insurance, and we're not gonna fudge from that. We're gonna do what's the right thing to do. But it was a little costly this year, and we're hopeful. So believe me, I was pretty animated at this, because when you're talking 13.9%, that may not seem like a large amount,
No.
but 1 point some, I mean, it's million. It's over $1 million. It's between $1 and $2 million for us. And
Mayor, do you have data on the percentage of employees that are utilizing the clinic?
yes,
Is that, I mean, are we having a good return there or?
we're working on that.
Okay, that's a valuable resource
Mhm.
for
Yes.
our employees. Okay. Just, all right. Any other questions from the
Is that
committee?
clinic available to council?
It's available to anyone that has city insurance.
Oh, well,
So-
I have a
just a
question,
sidebar or
if
something.
I may. Pertains to budget overall, but not necessarily your budget. Department heads and cooperation between department heads. We had something brought up last night in building commissioner's office. He was speaking and he talked about a home that was demolished and they had a basement that didn't get filled in right away. He reached out to one of the other departments and they charged him $2,000 to fill that because he doesn't have his own excavator or backhoe or even a bobcat for that matter to be able to work. And I wondered why there was such a large amount that he had to pay to get that done. If we're all in this together and we're trying to keep costs down, I could understand paying the employee, whoever the operator was, for that time and possibly for the fill that went in it. But it just seemed like it was a large amount. And I'm wondering, do the departments not work together as department
Well,
heads?
no, I think it's probably the opposite, but
Okay.
and I'll try and explain that. So you're coming here and you're looking at everybody's budgets today, but you're looking at individual departments. Now, whether that department will get up here and say, look, we had an extra expense here. I mean, had they done it for free,
Mhm.
nothing's free.
That's
So it
correct.
would have been money out of their department that was actually for something that they're not responsible for. So
Right.
when you're looking at these individual budgets, keep that in mind, that we do work together a lot. And when there may have been equipment that had to be rented, there may have been movement of equipment or a trailer. I don't know what the expense was that would have caused the $2,000-ish amount. But I do think had they not charged, it would be showing on a different department that doesn't do that work normally's income. And then they have to go up here in front of the council and be held responsible for expenses. And so that can be part of it.
Okay.
I think when it's a few $100s, I don't think you don't see a change. And I don't think we pay employees extra. I mean, so that they're there for that department. And if that department is handling something, that employee is not being paid extra, I don't believe, to do that. I don't even know what it was. But it would have been, had it not been the 2,000, and I don't know the details, but
No, I
my
understand
guess
that.
would be that's the reasoning,
Okay.
that there was an expense to it that was above and beyond salaries and or equipment that we already have. But I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I just know we're trying to do our best to keep the budget as low as possible. And I wondered why he had to pay more out of his budget for somebody else. That was the question.
Well, but it was to do work that should be in the building commissioner's
Right.
budget would be my guess.
Okay.
Again, I don't know, but now that I know that one side of the department, I will definitely bring it up with the building commissioner.
Ms. Lilly?
Yeah, I was just thinking, this is a response, if I may, Mr. Green.
Yes.
I'm assuming that if it was done not through other department, it would have probably cost double and triple. So that is something that you might, ask the building commissioner about. And I think sometimes when we use our departments, and yes, we have to pay for certain things, to compensate. I think it's always going to be less expensive to go through other departments than hire an outside contractor. Besides, when are they going to get there? Everybody's
That's true.
busy, so that's something, I'm interested to knowing the answer for that. But I think I'm sure it's going to be more expensive if you contracted somebody outside the city, not contracted,
Well,
but
we've got
work
a
with somebody
couple-
outside the city.
So
let's-
we've got a couple days before your next meeting. Why don't I try and get you an answer and I can give it to Nora, who
Or
can,
you can
okay,
it's,
to all of you. Okay,
that's fine.
I'll do that.
I did have a follow-up question on the same vein as the health insurance. I noticed that all the utilities are divided up into each department.
Yep.
And going through the budget performance report, I could not figure out how those are divided in regards to how they're paid. Some departments have paid 4% of their allotted amount, and some have paid 115. I'm not considering TUI, who obviously they would have a larger water
Sure.
bill, and the fire department might have a more significant because they have, the 7 buildings. What's the formula, especially for all the departments which are in the building here, on how you divide utility expenses?
It's supposed to be by square footage. So that's
Okay.
another area that we are looking
Thank you.
to move it all to the Board of Works next year, because the individual departments, and we get one that's like $1.35 is our office's particular share each month. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
kind of silly for the staff to have to go through that, send out all these different notices to all these different. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we,
The manpower.
and you and I had talked about similar type
Yeah,
things when
yeah.
we were on the council before. Yeah.
All right.
I got one more question, sorry.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just have a question. So the communications director is not in your budget there,
Mhm.
not listed. Where is that? And if it's not, if it's under a different
That's
budget that we'll
okay.
talk about later.
I believe
but
is
is
it
it the-
channel 60?
that's
Is it still
Yep,
listed as
it's-
channel
it's
60?
under
That's
channel
the
60.
Communications director.
Yeah.
And we can actually, feel free to bring that up now. I was going to actually bring that up when we talked to the controller. just
Okay,
out-
and I just wasn't
No,
sure
you're
who,
fine.
where
We can
that
bring it
fell.
up now if
Okay.
you want to discuss that.
I don't know that I had a lot of discussion. I just wanted
Wanted
to
to know where it was, whether it was
clarify that that's
paid.
what it was.
But
yeah.
that is communications director is channel 60.
Page 18.
Thank you. And so page 18 toward the top.
Mhm.
Did they had the 1%? Is that a 1% increase, or was that a larger increase? 1%. Thank you. And anyone else have questions on? That's basically just the salary for
That's
that
it
communications
for that
director.
particular piece.
Yeah. Yeah,
good
I do.
question.
Yeah. Then the other services and charges on that are for, is that for,
She does, that particular department doesn't have any other services or charges.
oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
There's
I
one
was-
above
it-
that's
Yeah,
animal
I don't
shelter,
have it.
and one
Yep, you're
below
right.
that's settled accounts.
Yep, it's just above it. Okay, perfect. All right.
All right. And so now we'll switch back to Board of Works. On page 5, there was some other,
I may get help on this one.
that's
but go
fine.
ahead.
That is fine. We'll get through this together. Other insurance, is that building insurance or is that another insurance? It increased minimally, but I'm just curious what falls under that umbrella.
Under Board of Works.
Yep.
Yes.
The other insurance. 76,000. Well, last year it's 83,600.
83 this year. I just was curious
So that's
where
commercial
we're
insurance.
falling with that.
Yeah, I believe that's the. like the
Commercial and
Holy cow, I've got 8 million papers around.
Liability
Yeah,
insurance.
liability.
liability. Yep.
Okay. And then the county ditch assessment went up $17,000. Is that a bill we get from the county that we have no
Yes.
control over? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for the ditch assessment, they're usually minimal, but stormwater, which is calculated on impervious surface.
Okay.
If you get a big parking lot, it's can be a large bill.
All right.
But we've accounted for the shortage this year because we've kind of got caught off guard. We've accounted for that for next year's budget.
Okay. Okay. And then the last question I had in regards to Board of Works would be other services and charges. What's included in other services and charges for the Board of Works?
I know
Because
that
that went up
legal is
about
in there.
$40,000.
I know
Sorry?
legal is in there. That's the big item.
Legal, the deputy there's an interlocal agreement for a deputy prosecutor with the county, which is $47,000.
Okay.
Some of the Davies claims, which is also general liability, and the postage meter in the controller's office. It doesn't pay for the postage, it pays for the
Actual meter.
lease on the postage meter.
All right. Any other members of the committee have questions about the Board of Works? All right.
This one's,
Okay. Please.
when you
ma'am.
say legal's in there, I mean, you're using the city attorney? I mean,
Yeah.
that you're paying so you're paying a portion of that 200, or
The
yeah, can you explain that
contracted
to
fee?
me? Yeah,
The
just,
contract.
Yeah, whenever we need legal services, it comes out of there. Like if somebody sues us or if we need contract work or
so outside of your general, the monthly or whatever
the
they charge you.
retainer.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Board of Works? All right. We will move on to the controller. Thank you, Mayor Ryder.
Thank you, Mayor.
My pleasure.
The controller is on page 1 of your budget.
Not much there. It's a pretty small budget on that. We just had the 1% increases in the salaries like everybody else did. And really just made a couple adjustments here and there. I took training fees and travel was $1,000. We took it down to 0. And I moved that $1,000 down to premium on the official bonds. So paid it out of there because I've been kind of splitting it up because that's the way it was. And we just decided to put it into one. And we adjusted the postage, increased that, and decreased our telephone. And that was the only changes that we had.
So your raises should be 1%?
Yes,
Okay, so we'll adjust that because they're
1%.
All right. All right. And that goes for all, then,
You know, we don't have much in some of these other lines, like other services and charges are $62.
overtime went up a little. You're having more overtime?
We just, no, we just budgeted in for it with just
We
where
do have
everybody
overtime
else.
From time to
Yeah.
time when we get busy.
Yeah.
And the employee uniforms, that's the polo shirt?
Yeah, we know there's some areas on there that we just don't use. That's always been budgeted.
Okay,
If you look down at the bottom, subscription and dues, there's 475 in that line that's always been there, and we just don't use it. So if you want to cut it, you may. So, but that is one area, and we're bare bones. We try to be.
all right. Anyone else on the committee have questions about the budget for the controller?
I do have one, Madam
Councilman
Chairman.
Sebastian?
What kind of an issue, what issues are caused when you try to delete a line item or do you try to delete a line? What kind of problems does that cause? Is it easy just by deleting that line, or do you have to go through a series of steps to delete a particular?
Are you
Um,
talking about this report?
No, you talked about a line item that you never use.
Oh, okay. Well, State Board of Accounts, you just zero it out.
Okay.
Basically all it is. They really don't like to have you deleting a bunch of lines, et cetera, but you can certainly take it down to 0, which means get rid of the cash in that.
Mhm. Okay, so it's an easy process.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good job.
I apologize for the.
Okay, now we will move on to data processing, which is on page 6
Mhm.
of your budget.
Good evening.
Hello, hello. Thank you for coming in.
I do have a kind of middle of the process of trying to move things more meaningful that we had from last year, where we had a little bit extra in the other services and charges and thought that that would be a little bit better to be in one of the more specific categories. So I did add that into the computers line item, but I forgot
Okay.
to reduce that out of the other services and charges. So
Okay.
net difference of whichever you want to take, the taking the other services back to just 2024 level, or subtract out the $20,000 difference that I increased the other.
And so
Ye-
that, you're saying that's, you combined other services and charges and the computers and supplies?
So for the 2024 budget, we had 10,000 for computers roughly. And then we were using expenditures or our budget item in other kind of to fill in gap for computer parts, et cetera, switches, network servers, different variables. So we're kind of using it mostly 90% of what I didn't have. Our other services and charges is about 95% currently of contract services that are already in existence. So there was some buffer to then take expenses that unexpected or allow us to do some replacement over time with different equipment. So taking that excess off of other services and charges, keeping that almost all contract services, moving that into computers so it's a little bit more properly classified.
For email services, it's gone up
Yeah.
significantly, but you've also, I mean, it's reflecting on the budget performance sheet. Is that the transition to the Amazon Web?
Yeah.
Is that what we've done?
Yeah.
And an
Yeah.
increased
It
licensing?
just
That's
was-
what I thought.
It's a more expensive solution, unfortunately, but it's, knock on wood, more stable.
Mhm.
That was really the only, any other questions from the committee for data processing? All right,
Sure
thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you all.
And thank you for the new laptop.
I appreciate that. All right. Personnel Department, that is going to be on the same page, page 6 at the bottom.
Good evening, City
Welcome.
Council.
Good evening.
I'm Patty Goddard, HR Director. I have met many of you, but not all. So thank you for allowing me to explain my budget to you. The only increased line items are 2 salaries, and that is 1%. The others have remained flat year over year.
One question, and where did it go? The employee assistance program is zeroed out, and I'm just curious, is that something that we've discontinued?
No, we
Okay.
absolutely continue to
Where
offer
is
that.
that funded?
I would believe I don't handle the benefits for the city. That is handled in the benefits department through the memorandum of understanding through the sanitation.
Okay.
Okay. And so, but I believe it's in other insurance, but I don't know that for sure.
Other insurance in regards to your,
Not in my line items.
Not at
No,
all.
no benefits expenditures that aren't related to my department employees would come out of my budget.
all right. I was just, I mean, obviously I was concerned because that is a very valuable program and we wanted to make sure that we were addressing those needs.
I concur. It's a very valuable program and I utilize that very often with our employees.
Thank you.
So.
So are there any questions from the committee
No,
in regards
looks
to
good.
personnel? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And the last one this evening is the fire department. We'll start with their budget in the general fund,
Okay.
which is on page 11 at the very bottom.
Good evening. Bear with me a little bit as I flip through stuff. I was hoping we'd have a table available this evening.
We
but
are
I
also
didn't.
going to take one moment to catch up there.
While we're catching up, why don't we just wish the chief a happy birthday?
Oh,
Oh,
happy
happy
birthday.
birthday. Should we sing?
We didn't get a cake.
We have a little bit left upstairs if you want to come up afterward. I'll share with you. It is
Is
Patty's
that-
birthday as well.
Patty.
Happy birthday. All right, chief. So, first off, is it a 1% increase in your salaries or is that what we budgeted?
It is. This is actually reflects a little more than 1% because if you look through it, we had a little shortfall actually on what was proposed this year. So if you look back at where we're at this year, so last year's budget was not funded full for the chief's position line item. So we'll have to discuss some adjustments to that. But actually what was figured was an actual 1% correct.
And this line item includes how many persons, the chief line item?
2.
Okay, yourself and the
And the
deputy,
deputy chief, correct.
and those are broken down in what you've given us here,
Correct. And what I sent you,
supplement
absolutely.
you've given us?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And so we might be referring to the supplement that was in your mailbox. So.
Yep.
All right. And then, so we go through, oh, that's not you. That won't help me. And so because you don't know in regards to the CBA, what will, everyone is budgeted for just 1% at this point
That is correct.
out of the general fund. Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
And
Absolutely.
your CBA, once the contract is decided and that cost is determined, where will that be paid out of?
Well, we will have to negotiate that, when that comes around. I mean, I've got some figures we can talk about when we get down further, when we get into the 104s and stuff, but,
Okay.
that's something that will have to be negotiated. We put in a 1%, we figured out a budget here for you based off of that. I'm not sure what line you're down to now, if we're still at the firefighters line item, but.
Well, we're in the
that's my
general fund,
information.
we're in
Mhm.
these are zeroed out, but the supplement here, so we're
Correct.
still looking at salaries.
Yep.
So rough guesstimate, how many battalion chiefs do you have?
We have 4, just
Chief inspectors,
1,
captains,
6.
technicians,
Currently, we have 2 technicians,
training officers,
1
lieutenants?
line lieutenants.
It just.
Line lieutenants, we have 15, and it's on that supplement, actually. I did break everything down on that supplement where it shows all that. But yeah, line lieutenants, we have 15.
And then 2 lieutenant inspectors then?
Correct.
And drivers are sergeants, correct?
That is correct. 21. Mhm.
Okay.
And if you look on the supplement, we did some restructuring this year, and we did eliminate 3 lieutenants positions and 6 sergeant positions as well.
Okay. All right. And with the most recent hiring, you are fully staffed?
That is correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Correct.
Fully staffed at 110?
Yes, technically, we have 2 people off on suspension. Well, we have 1 off on suspension, 1 on military leave right now, and that balances our numbers.
Okay, but 110 with the 18
Yep.
in actual numbers, okay. And that includes front of the house, that 110 includes front of the house and,
That is our,
Fire.
yeah, that is all of our merit appointed members,
all right,
correct?
thank you.
Mhm.
Office manager was increased by the 1%?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Apologize as we have got so many things here. Overtime, it is increased from what you had for 2024, but definitely moving in the right direction for 2025. That $500,000, do you think that will be suffice now that you have the 22?
I do believe with the overtime that we have in 104 and the increase that we've asked for in 105, I do believe so. And obviously coming into the end of next year, coming into the budget cycle for 26, we'll obviously have some time with full staff with us the way we're structured now. But yes, I believe that should put us, that should put us in good standing for.
And are you still seeing the same decline that we discussed before in regards to where we were in August, or actually July, and now coming
Yes,
down?
beginning Friday, we will come down a large chunk more as the rest of the recruits hit the floor.
Okay.
So, yeah, I had a battalion chief tell me the other day for his 4-day section where he was calling for 8 to 12, he called for 3 individuals during the same time frame. So yes,
So
absolutely.
Would you mind then, we had asked for the report, I believe that was at the end of August. Would you mind maybe in November refreshing that and give it, thank you, just
Absolutely.
to make sure that we're on that same downward trend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Let's see.
You will see though, and I know we went on to overtime, I did put a reduction in our holiday pay because of the way it was budgeted. We have moved firefighters, and so I decreased the holiday pay in the 101 as well. And that is now going to be paid from the 104 for those individuals. So we did that as well.
We appreciate that.
Mhm.
Okay. Let me catch up here.
And if you like, I've got some news I'd like to share with you on our perf expense as well, which is
Please
the
do.
3017 line. We sat down today and went back through all of our figures, and we found that for our perf expenses, we had over budgeted for that as well. And when I looked, we had a 29% increase, which threw up a flag for me. And so perf's a straight expense based off of our certified salary for the numbers of individuals that are paid through that account. So
Right.
we have an overage budgeted of $240,512.14. So I would like, if you want, there's $240,000 that you can remove from that line item from our general fund budget as well.
From next year?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. Yep, for 25.
That's first. Say that again.
240,000,
Got it.
$512
Well,
and 14 cents.
and 14.
I know we don't deal with the pennies, but that's the exact number for you.
We do.
Well, and as we said last night, we appreciate any time our public safety can move some of that expense
Mhm.
from the general fund to their revenue streams, because the other 12 departments, they don't have that same opportunity to do that revenue stream. And so that money that you're able to push back into play will help Mr. Tolby in the animal shelter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so anytime we can do that, we appreciate that. And we appreciate your,
Yeah, and
due diligence.
it's a line item that if we didn't, because that, based off the proposal that we have at this time for pay scale and contract, that is money that would not be. So based on when the contract negotiations and the collective bargaining ordinance comes through, then obviously we'll make the adjustments based off of those scales. But based off of what we have now, that is correct. And otherwise it would just be sitting there if not. So that would be the correct amount based on the 1%.
40. Okay,
I have a question if I may.
absolutely.
The new fire station will be out on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Mhm.
That money that you had set aside for that is still set aside for that, right? Your
That is
portion.
correct. That is correct. And it's
Okay,
in
so
our
this is-
104.
Okay, it's
Mhm.
not going to be changed.
No.
Okay, thank you.
And then, gas and oil is minimal. Question about household laundry. It went up over 100%.
Correct. If you go back, since we've taken over and we've gone through these things, our household laundry has been, completely spent by June to July every year, the last 3 years. So that's why we asked for the increase to make that whole. If you look, it's 100% now, and it was 100%
Yes.
back in June, I believe, is when we expended.
Yeah, I'm looking at
household
you, and
laundry.
It was
Yeah.
then.
It's been this amount as far back as I could go in the budget. Looking, it had never been changed, so.
Okay. And then medical services.
Yes, the medical services increase is to reflect all the changes in our medical services that we had come to you for before.
The cancer screenings?
Yes.
Things- okay.
Yes, and so with cutting budgets from other places and getting that in the medical services where we believe it should be, that is why that increase is in there for that.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Ms. Val,
Yes, ma'am.
may I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. Repair and maintenance, you have 0 in there? Could you
Correct.
explain that to us, please?
Correct. Well, we have repair and maintenance funds in 105 and 104 that take care of those things.
Okay.
There again, it is confusing when you start going through and we pull this up and there's all these extra line items
Yes.
that are 0. It's just because things have been moved into other funds for the fire department because we have that option.
Other services and charges in your general went up 100%.
Let me go to that one real quick here.
Can I have that? Yep,
Mm,
9,000.
Let me look on this one because mine shows on my sheet that we didn't raise that at all.
I have 101 being 995, and on the 2024 budget, it's 4,900.
I wrote double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's because it was amended and it was just when we looked down what it was. So last year's had an amendment in the middle of the year. So when we look back through ours, it's hard to find the pre's and posts. So We had just left that the same at 9950, which is what last year's had been amended to during the year. So
And
when we
what-
looked that up,
What expenses come out of other services and charges?
it's incidentals. I mean, honestly, it's just things that we don't have budgeted for. Again, like a lot of people, we don't have a legal fee line item. So depending on what our legal fees and what they're being used for, we will pull from, possibly 101, possibly 104, if it's an EMS related thing. And, just things we don't strictly have line items for specifically. Some of the other services and charges that we come to, because incidentals in the fire service are extremely expensive. And so having those monies, and we try to make sure that we use the same one for the 3 years that I've been involved with this for each one, but we just don't have specific line items for some of those things. And so we pull from there. But
Okay. So this is what the 9,000 is what you've spent or what you're on route to spend this year.
that is correct.
And so that's okay.
That is correct.
Subscriptions and dues went up
Yes.
75%, or actually 300%.
Yeah. Subscription and dues went from $250 to $1,000, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And that's just some of the subscriptions that we have for our operating. So BC Shaler deals with all of our logistics stuff. And he proposed that to us and said that was what we would need for next year. We're at 80% this year. Like I said, it's extremely small budget item anyway. So it did go up to $750 to cover those subscriptions.
And furniture and fixtures?
Mhm.
Can you, is that per station?
That's what we have for the whole city annually.
And capital equipment, what's coming out of that?
Capital equipment just becomes whatever capital equipment we need based on fire apparatus, things for the fire apparatus, things for stations. Once again, it's specifically for our capital equipment, but it's not for things that are specifically broke down in other areas.
Does anyone else on the committee have questions about the general fund? Fire
I have one. Actually, it's a question to help clarify. You've said that you are at full staffing. You've increased numbers of personnel, of staff. It seems to me that it would make sense that you would need less overtime than you did when you were not at full staff. Help me understand that dichotomy, if you will,
Right. Well,
especially since you've asked for.
Currently between all of our funds together, we are at about $1.3 million in overtime.
Oh.
Currently. So when you look back through this proposed budget, that is down considerably, closer to I believe it's a little below 800 for next year as a whole. So as you look through collectively, we have greatly reduced our overtime in this total budget for next year.
And that makes sense to me too. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else for the general fund for the Muncie Fire Department? Okay, we're going to move just to review your public safety local income tax, which is on page 18. And so firefighters, of course, reflects 1% until we have more information regarding what the negotiations will.
Correct.
Portion. Overtime has increased.
Yes.
and Yes.
It's increased so that we can cover what we propose for
Appreciate that.
in
Thank
that.
you,
So,
sir.
yep, absolutely.
Okay. Expenses, health insurance, other insurance. And equipment. And you've moved some of the equipment rental repair into that fund as well?
Let me get my budget up here. We have had equipment rental, repair, and maintenance. That's been in there for years.
Okay.
Before 104 came along, that's where we did our equipment maintenance and repair out of.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the committee regarding public safety, local income tax for the fire department? Okay.
Are you purchasing any new equipment this year?
Yes, yes, we will. We've already purchased equipment. Obviously, we started early in the year with the outfitting and equipping some new trucks. Well, that one came in last year, one early this year. And we do have some equipment. We put together wish lists. Once again, equipment and fire service is expensive. So we sit back for a little while to make sure that we don't have one of those large expenses. If a large expensive piece of rescue equipment or firefighting equipment or something goes down and we have to replace it, if we've spent that whole budget, when these line items really aren't that big for the fire service. These line items haven't changed since I've been involved with the department. I don't know how far back it goes, but the equipment costs themselves have increased 200 to 300%. So we're trying to live within our means and try to be, respectful of the budget as much as we can.
So those are coming out of the line item on the lease purchase options.
Well, some of the capital equipment is just straight capital equipment. Some of it is vehicle purchase line item that we have. I mean, we match it up with what fits most directly with that.
Any other questions about public safety lit? I had not about the lit, but about just fire pension. There was some medical exams and tests. I don't know if you are familiar with the fire pension budget.
Absolutely.
Is that just the medical exams and tests?
That's the medical examination for the new hires.
Okay.
So that,
Depends.
yep.
Thank you.
By state statute, the pension board is required to pay for the medical examinations for the individual. So we have that in the pension fund line item.
Okay. And now we'll move back to Muncie Fire Department EMS. It's 104 and it is on page 34.
Get myself all backed up here too.
All right. Salaries all 1%.
Yeah, the salaries were figured up through the controller's office. And I didn't go back down through those individually.
Okay.
So
I did not see this and I could have overlooked it in the previous, but in this year's budget, ambulance shift pay.
yes, that is something that we put in. It's something that's in the contract. It's been in the contract.
Could you explain what that is?
But it's ride out pay for the gentlemen, the ladies and gentlemen that ride the ambulances during the day. So by contract, they're paid a stipend for being on that ambulance every day. And we didn't have a place to pay that directly. So it was being tacked onto their regular pay. Well, this allows us to pay that stipend, separately so that we can watch that, we can figure those expenses, and it doesn't affect the general salaries.
Please do.
Would that be like a shift premium?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's exactly what it is.
And so looking up to your supplement, EMS, so you have some that are not, you have a paramedic supervisor that's not filled yet,
That's correct.
but it is funded. I'm just making sure it's
Yes.
funded. Okay. And then six all day as far as EMS, paramedic. It says 3 EMS techs and then 3
Yes,
truck
it's
techs.
one EMS tech per shift, and that's a training position. And those positions are figured into their base pay, so it's already figured in.
Okay.
Miss Mel,
Please.
may I go back to something you said or mentioned? The paramedic supervisor, are you planning to fill that position?
The paramedic supervisor is written in the contract would be for a union member. Currently, those acting in our paramedic supervisor roles are civilians, and their salary ordinance does not allow for that. So they are not currently paid for those positions.
So but you would be willing to hire somebody who is in the union from somewhere else to fill that position?
Well, currently it's being filled by civilian paramedics until we get our firefighter paramedics up, get a large enough number, get them trained, get them, to be in those positions.
Okay.
But that is something that the union negotiated last year to get in play for the future.
Okay.
How many merit paramedics do we have? How many firefighter?
Right now we have 5. We have another that's getting ready to graduate from,
And those are
paramedic
merit
class.
firefighters that are paramedics.
they are
as well?
dual role. Yes, correct. They're firefighters that are also paramedics. And we have 2 more getting ready to start paramedic school right now. So it's coming along. It's one of those things, it takes a little while to build, but it is coming along. And it allows us to have, all ALS stations at least. So sometimes those firefighters, if they're officers, they provide the paramedic role from their engine assignment. But they still are on scene with that BLS ambulance and provide that ALS service for us.
Smart.
If I may jump to the training, please, training fees and travel.
Mhm.
Tell me more about the training. I know,
Oh, I'm sorry. We have 8 firefighter paramedics right now. Sorry.
Thank you.
Chief Miller corrected me.
So
He can
8
figure on the fly a little. I was talking and trying to count in my head. So
In the dual role, there's 8.
We should be up to 10 by December, January timeframe.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I'm sorry, back
No,
to your
you're
question
fine.
about training.
training, could you tell us where does the training occur? Does EMS train here in Muncie? What are your plans?
the
And
majority
explain
of
the
our, yeah,
25,000
the majority of our training is in-house.
in-house.
So we are a training institution with the state of Indiana.
Okay.
Chief Miller's a training instructor,
Okay.
and we do a lot of our training in-house. Now, there are classes like the paramedic class we can't do in-house, so we do send people for that. Tech rescue classes that are extended time, such as swift water, confined space
Yeah.
collapse, those specialty ones, those are generally done off-site,
Okay.
specialized areas.
So that's where that money goes, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
And one more question, if I may.
Please.
So when other people come and train with you, of course, you charge them a fee, correct?
It depends on the training. We do interlocal training with other departments. We train with other people that we don't charge them to come and train with us. But we also go and train other places as well. Some of the places will allow us to use their training facilities to take people to in exchange for people to sit in through our class.
So
Yep.
so you're saying there's no money exchange when it comes to other people coming to your facility for training?
Nope.
Okay.
And in fact, though, we do offer internship programs with a few paramedic schools and EMT classes where their people will come and ride along and get their clinical times.
Mhm.
And in exchange, though, we do get 2 tuition-free paramedic students through that
Oh, that's-
the exchange. So
Okay,
it's
thank
a
you.
good program. Mhm.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second. I am trying to decipher between 104 and EMS. And you've actually, unless I've missed it, you've moved holiday pay and some other things into the
Into the 104, correct.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I did that so that those things, the things we've talked about in the past where people's payroll, their benefits, we want them coming out of the same place. So we've done that
Okay.
moving forward.
Well, I know that when Councilman McIntosh and I met with you,
Mhm.
we talked about the need to try and start moving, and I appreciate that responsiveness to that.
Yep.
So anyone else on the committee have questions for one?
One more, if I may.
Absolutely.
So repairs and maintenance, emergency ambulance services. Now they are housed with, in fire stations, correct?
That is correct. Mhm.
And then you have 70 here for 70,000 for building maintenance. Could you explain that?
Correct. That was put in 2 years ago, agreements with the mayor when we were going over our budgets. And we really wanted to make sure that we had funds to do capital improvements and to maintain our buildings and,
Okay.
And make improvements. And we've got several bids out right now. Well, we've had them come back that we're hoping to award for locker room and bathroom facility upgrades, concrete work at the stations that need it really bad. So we have a lot of stuff kind of pending that we were getting through processes, getting bids back. And now we're looking at like temporary facilities, restroom facilities to be able to move in so we can get some of this work done. And it's important to us. And so we did add $70,000 a few years ago to that building maintenance line in the 104 so that we are paying those things from our EMS funds. And we're not coming to the general fund to supplement those things.
Okay. One more, Mrs. Powell. Thank you.
Absolutely, please
And
do.
is there a reason why you didn't increase that? I mean, does some of that money come from the charges for EMS
Well,
services?
it does, but if you look at the budget as proposed with what our revenue is, we presented you with a balanced 104 budget for next year. That's why.
Good luck
And,
with that
and with the
70,000.
capital improvements in that line item, that gives us $140,000 to
anything
put towards
is
capital
good.
improvements. We do have a bond reimbursement line item in there that if it's not used, we have already committed to ask to move that over to capital improvements as well. So,
Thank you.
but, you know, we can't, the bad thing is we can't shut down a bunch of fire stations and do a ton of work at once anyway. So we have to spread these things out as it is.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any questions over any of the various funds for the fire department? Anyone on the
If
committee?
I can, to answer a question you asked me earlier, I said we get back down here to the end. You were asking about shifting burden to our revenued funds over the 104. And just a couple things. With last year's contract agreement, we encumbered $1,079,990 in our EMS budget. And that was for salaries, overtime, health insurance, the things that we moved in, those benefits and those things. So that $1,079,000 plus, basically, that allowed revenue in the general fund. You know, we have already voluntarily worked with the city to move and shift burden in. You know, I don't know that anybody else can say that they've gone that far. Had it not have been for the fire department, you know, taking on those expenses into the 104, I don't know that anybody in the city would have received the raises that they did last year. We did that. So starting this year, we had a balance of $1.8 million in our 104 fund, and we're going to end with a balance of about $1 million, just over $1 million. So that's, you know, is a little over $800,000 that we have spent in excess of our revenue this year. Now, we had some extraordinary things involved this year. We came to you and asked you to appropriate additional funds and stuff. So our hope is we don't have those things next year, but we do need to keep some cash balance in our corporate account to cover those things. Deductible on a fire truck's $250,000. We total a fire truck, we have to come up with $250,000 for that immediately. We have high deductibles, it's $250,000 deductible on our liability for our malpractice, as we went through earlier this year, as you know. So we have done a lot of things already. I went back and looked, and our general fund, as proposed with the $240,000 that we adjusted today, from 2013 to this year's proposed budget, our general fund budget has only increased 3%. 3% in 12 years. Now, at its height in 2016, our proposed budget for next year is 9% lower than the general fund budget that was awarded in 2016. So the fire department is doing its part. We're trying to work with council. We're trying to take our burdens upon ourselves, and we've demonstrated that this year, I believe. So we'll be happy to sit down at negotiation time and see what can be done. But we've presented you a balanced budget in our 104. So we can't encumber another $1,080,000. We can't do it, which we did last year. So I just wanted to, I hope that answers your question you asked earlier about that. You know, the city of Muncie, and I think it's all departments. It's not just the fire department. It's not just public safety. We all operate on a shoestring compared to a lot of cities our size in the state. And we are performing services at a great rate. Per capita, we are very busy, very busy. Public safety as a whole in this city is busy. And we do the best we can with what we have. And we try to provide our firefighters, paramedics, you know, we try to provide them with the equipment that they need to do the job, you know, to provide the best service that we can to the citizens of Muncie. And we try to do that responsibly. And I believe we demonstrated that, you know, in the past. I'm not saying that we can't sit and talk and look at things, but when you look at what we've already encumbered here into this, and this EMS fund is doing exactly what was presented to the members that were on this council 5 years ago. It would help purchase fire apparatus. It would help make improvements to our stations and our living conditions for our firefighters. It would improve the equipment that they use for life safety. You know, we would be able to provide a more efficient service to the citizens of Muncie. And it's done that. We don't have to come to the general fund to ask for money for truck purchases, for equipment purchases. We figure them in, we encumber them here, and we make sure that our equipment is in the best shape it can be. And we need to improve more. We are still improving. We are still building our ambulance service. We're still getting those things to the level we want for our people. So we're willing to work, but this is where we are. Those are true facts. Those are true numbers right there. And that's where we are right now. So I thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other issues that need to be discussed? All right, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn
I
this.
so move.
We have a motion from Councilperson Basham. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Harold Mason. Thank you very much.